All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So, today's lesson, we're going to be dealing with a couple things. Some of the things is you guys may know about, some of the things you may not know about. Um, but if you missed this class day, we had these notes, but we also had an activity at the very, very end. So if you didn't get those papers from me, be sure you get them from me. It's called the Morse code activity. Okay, and I'll explain it more when we get to the end. So first off, let's start up with the warm up. So here's the picture. What do you see? Okay, um, so you see this thing. I don't know if you can really see it on your end, but on the train cars it says consolidation train, uh, extortion, bribery, um, impression, or is it impression? I believe so. Um, so look at the picture. What do you notice? Okay, so what do you see? All right. So now again, the train, look around the tracks and things like that. All right. Now the second question is this: after you've gone through and you've analyzed the picture and you notice something pretty strange between people laying down and people standing up, and the person standing up. Um, so what do you see? Okay. Second question is, what do you think this artist is trying to say? All right. About the train industry, about the people, what do you think this artist is trying to say? Okay. So once you're finished with that, then we're going to move on to the notes. Okay. Now remember, this is a video. Remember, you guys can always pause it, to finish up what you're doing, or you can rewind it to go back to a certain point. Okay. All right. So now to the notes. The thing is, in 1806, Congress funded this building of a great American highway. Now, when you think of highway, you think of the roads we have nowadays, um, and that's not what we mean. What we mean is basically larger roads, okay? And not only just roads, but canals, bigger canals, and railroads. Okay. Now the thing is, some politicians back at this time didn't know if Congress had the ability to actually create it because it goes through states. But the thing is, it does say in the Constitution that Congress can make laws that are just and necessary, and they felt that these means of transportation were necessary. So they went for it and they created it. So in early 1800s, transportation started to really take off. Like I said, roads, canals, and railroads. Now railroads were in its infancy, and the thing is, people realized, man, these things, these trains, can carry a heavy amount of weight and not lose momentum, not um, and not slow down. They can keep going. Uh, and unlike horses, horses get tired. They need to be watered. They need to be rested. Trains don't really need that. You just need one conductor person to make sure everything's on the up and up. And if you got someone who's good at that, a train can go for as long as you can feed fuel to it. All right. Now the thing is, the North became an area for manufacturing. Um, they wanted factories there, because you have to remember a lot of that land up there is um, rocky and stuff like that. So they're like, well, we can't really grow much. What we can grow, but we can farm. But we should really use this land for factories and things like that. So the North went to manufacturing goods, whereas the South they stuck to agriculture. Um, so if you look at the map, where North Carolina is, where the NC is, if you put like that line right above it, if you look down, you really don't see much as a way of roads or trains. You mainly see canals. That's about it. But then canals brought water, so farmers didn't really mind that, you know. But they were like, "Mm, trains? No, 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 no. See, because you're putting these trains through my land, and that's basically money I'm losing year after year. So no, 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 I don't want no train going through my property and some of that. Canal again brings water, so they didn't mind that, you know. So, but if you look at that line of North Carolina and you look up, there's a bunch of roads and canals and trains, so they they wanted that. Okay. Now here's a fun thing. Instead of towns waiting for the government to create a road that goes from the main road to their town, a lot of states, local towns, and private businesses actually pitched in money so that they can get a road built, you know. And so let's think of like a one town that's far over here, and here's the main road. What they would do is that the town would basically pay to have a road connected from there to their town. Uh, and the thing is, some people saw this as a wise investment. You know, some people felt it was necessary. Okay. Now, your question is this: why do you think it would be beneficial for states, local towns, and private businesses to invest in roads? Roads that went from a road to their town. Why do you think it'd be beneficial for them? Okay. So again, if you do not know how to start off the sentence, there's the writing prompt right there. Remember, you do get this is a big part of your points, and I do read through these. I love reading them. I love what you're thinking. I love reading. You guys are very creative. So please write it in complete sentences and really think about it. Okay. All right. So now we get to the Industrial Revolution, which actually began in Britain around the 1700s. And the thing is, people found out, if we have machines, they don't rest. You just got to maintain them, but they don't slow down really. They don't take breaks. They don't, need vacation time, or they don't take sick days. These things just go. And so some factories started switching to machines. Now, in the early 1800s, America caught on, and it transformed our economy so much, and it basically changed our society. Now, when you get into economics, you're going to hear about something called free enterprise. Now, free enterprise is an economic system in which the product, prices, and services are determined by the market, not the government. So, some of you guys may know about a restaurant where the waiters like clown on you, they tell you all kinds of outlandish things. Now, if someone told you this kind of stuff out in the open, you'd want to throw fists. But because it's a restaurant, you're paying to be there. Some people they laugh, they think it's hilarious, and people pay money to go there to get insulted, right? And that's what free enterprise is. If people are willing to pay for something, do it. You know. Um, Now the prices. This is a little fun, interesting thing because let's just say Pepsi decides to make a black licorice flavored soda. A lot of people will probably not like it. All right. So if they made a bunch of it, they're not going to sell it really high if no one's buying it. They're going to bring the price down so that those people who actually do want it, at least they'll get some money off of it. They won't make a bunch of money, but they'll just barely get something, right? It was a failed experiment. So those prices go low. Now, something like a pair of J's, all right? Back when I was younger, they were about, you know, 60, 80, maybe even $100 when my last years in high school. Now, some of these shoes are up to 200, some are 300 for them, are told. Um, and that's the thing, it's like, why does the price jump up? It's because people like them, they invest in them, they want them, so they don't mind spending two bills on a pair of shoes. Because that's what they want and they're willing to spend that money. So, of course, the prices are only going to get higher. to see where are we going to cap off where people will, not spend that money, you know. And if that gets to the case, then they'll bring it back down because they want to profit, make a profit as much as possible without having you the people say, that's way too much. Okay. Um, Now the thing is, there's low taxes for entrepreneurs. So what they did is they would invest more money in stuff, not only their own products, but other people's products. So they're looking at investment, things like that, like where should I put my money in? And sometimes they made a lot of money, sometimes they didn't. That's the thing with investing. Now, states, they really, really wanted to have factories because factories mean more jobs meant more people are going to live there, and that meant their state's going to have power because the House of Representatives. That means that the state's going to make money because people are going to buy stuff, and since their state's going to make more money because their state is going to sell things, not just within the state but also out of state. You know, so it's going to be good for them. So that's why they really, really wanted um, factories there. And I didn't realize it, but that's basically your your question. Why do you think states would want new businesses to start in their states? I should have read the question before I put this up. So if you're watching this and you don't know the answer and you weren't really listening because you just stopped it, um, tough luck. If you're smart, you'll know what to do. All right. So there's the writing prompt, okay, to start it off. So we'll just move on. All right. So now we get to the part where this guy, Eli Whitney, you'll hear about him in the next video, actually. He invented this thing called interchangeable parts. Now, if you've ever worked on something for like IKEA or you got a box that you put the stuff together so you can make a chair, a table, bookshelf, something, you will notice that in the container there's these bags of like nuts, bolts, washers, things like that. Um, and the thing is, back in the day, they usually actually used to have like a bolt and like let's say a nut, and they would put it in there and that's it. One piece was custom with another piece. That was it. You couldn't, if you lost it or broke it, that was it. You're done for. But Eli Whitney said, you know what? We have a mold for a screw. Why don't we make a bunch of them? We have the mold of a washer. Let's make a bunch of them. And the same thing with the nuts. We have a bunch. Let's make a bunch of them. That way, if someone loses it or it breaks, they can get another one. And it's one of those things that people go, "Oh my God, why didn't I think of that?" So so simplistic, but it's genius. So Eli Whitney did that. Other factories were springing up. So stuff like for lumber, whereas when they used to use wood, they wouldn't use all of it too much, but now they utilize it to the max, you know, for boards, for panels, for whatever. Shoes were another big thing, not just the material, but the the size of them and stuff like that. Interesting fact about shoes too, back in this day, um, the shoes were the same. There was no left shoe, right shoe, things like that. They both looked the same, but when you put them on, your foot would mold into it. And basically, if you're bought a new pair of shoes and people tell you, "Oh, put it on and walk in them," that means you're breaking them in. That's where the term came from, because you got the shoes and you broke them in. You would walk on them and your foot would mold into it. Now, also, supposedly, to like from fun little thing, is when people went to sleep, they would take off their shoe, left shoe, right shoe, or wherever, whichever way they did it, and then they would hold them together and they put it to the side of their bed, you know, and that's the thing, so they could remember to put that shoe with this foot and that other shoe with this other foot. Okay, is that true? For a fact, I don't know. It's just something I read in the past. Wagons. Wagons were a big thing because people wanted to expand west. And wagons were known to like, oh my gosh, besides trains, this stuff can carry things. My horse doesn't necessarily carry everything on its back. You know, if we put things on a wagon, it can easily move as opposed to the horse carrying it all, or a donkey or a bull. Sewing machines. This was a new thing because people would do things by hand, sew by hand. If you've ever seen someone sew something by hand, it takes a while. They might get stabbed in the thumb or the fingers, um, which is quite painful. But the thing is, a sewing machine, it just really quick, sewed cloth together, and they were able to make clothing in mass production, which then brought the price down because now they can make a bunch of it, right? And when there's an abundance or too much of something, the price goes down. Now, the thing is, even cheaper things, stuff that was made from cheap cloth, was now cheaper. And so now, basically, poor people who only afford maybe one or two shirts could easily afford um, four or five shirts. Basically a different shirt every day of the week. Okay, so this was amazing thing. Canned food. The thing is, canned food was perfected. Now imagine opening a can of peaches or a can of corn, and you open up and there's just like a thing of mold. All right. Now you would just be like, ugh, disgusted. And the thing is, it happened back then. But during this time, they perfected it so where air could not get in and basically ruin the food. Uh, it also gave the ability to store the food and transport it, just in case they were getting on the wagon and they were going on a long trip. The canned food could last. And on top of that, let's say there was a winter, a long winter. If they can't had canned food or pickled food, they'd be fine. They wouldn't have to worry about, oh, we have to go searching for food or we have to hunt for food. No, they have the canned and pickled stuff. Um, Now, one of the most amazing things to ever happen at this time, believe it or not, was when this came in 1832. This guy, Samuel F.B. Morse. Now, Morse, he didn't invent the telegram. He just perfected it. And he developed a series of dots and dashes to be letters. So when they heard the message, it'd be like dee 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 dee, things like that. Um, this is the first time, I mean, ever, messages could be sent cross country almost instantaneously. Now, remember, if you imagine you send a text message, or you write in a letter, and you, uh, guy on a horse, on a really, really fast horse, got it and took off from one side of town to the other. You would have to wait hours for them to come back, right? Now, the thing is, some people communicated from towns far away, so it would take even longer for a message to go back, you know. But through telegram, through the telegraph wires, they got the messages almost instantaneously, you know. So journalists would use this to send messages about war or things that are happening on the west, stuff with Indians, an expansion of stuff, the railroad. So news traveled fast now. People were getting news from all around the country quickly in the newspapers. Now by 1860, right before the Civil War started, there was 50,000 miles of telegraph wire. Now, just to give you a mental illusion, um, if you can picture the United States in your head, from LA to New York, that is 3,000 miles. And basically, David goes like back and forth, basically like almost like 17, almost 18 times. Just back and forth, boom, 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 like that. That's much wire. Went from the East Coast to the West Coast, but more on the East Coast because the West Coast at that time in the 1860, it was scattered. Not too much was there, as opposed to the East Coast where there was towns really closer together, so wires were just bam, 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 like spider web. Okay, so that's the end of this video. Now, like I said, the very, 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 very beginning of this video, Um, in class, we did do this thing about the Morse code. Okay, so that's an activity. Make sure that you get that paper, that you do it. Okay, now it does say on there write the example I gave, this and that. You do not have to do that because I'm not there to do it for you. But what you can do is create your own code, okay? And you can have someone translate it, you know, or they can write a code and you translate it. So either one, I don't care. I just want you to either translate it or write the code and then someone does the other thing. Okay? I don't care if it's your neighbor, I don't care if it's your mama, I don't care. Just as long as you do one of those two things. And when you do that, you will get full credit. Okay? Now, that's the end of this video. Okay? So I hope you learned something new. Okay? And that's it. All right. You guys have a good day. Take care. Be safe.